Shalom, I hope you all are doing well. I am blessed and I am back again with a quick video. To start off this lesson, we're going to do a little bit of basic biology. Did you know that our DNA contains a record of our ancestors, but we're not a copy of any of them? The particular mix of DNA you inherit is unique to you. You receive 50% of your DNA from each of your parents, who receive 50% of theirs from each of their parents, and so on. So I just want to set this foundation up before I talk about the 12 tribes of Israel, all being Negro descent. So let's take a moment to consider how traits are passed from parent to offspring inside the cell. The information for the traits of an organism is stored in DNA as genes on chromosomes. All living things have genes and chromosomes. Chromosomes come in matching pairs, one pair from each parent. Humans, for an example, have a total of 46 chromosomes, 23 from the mother and another 23 from the father. Now, this is very important to remember for this study. With two sets of chromosomes, children inherit two copies of each gene, one from each parent. With that being said, you may look like your mother, your father, or a mixture of both, and often children can look like their grandparents. Now, based on this scientific rule of thumb, you absolutely will not be born looking like a pale nation of people if both of your parents are black, as well as your grandparents. Traits that are passed on from parents to their offspring are called inherited traits. Let's look at this word heredity. When living things produce offspring, they pass on traits to them. The passing of traits from parents to their offspring is called heredity. So now we know that within Yahuwah's creation, there's scientific evidence that prove that all living things get half of their genes from one parent and half of their genes from the other parent. Look at this example of the mixed seed between a donkey and a zebra. As you can see, it is definitely half donkey, and then you can see the stripes and the characteristics of where it is also half zebra. But when it comes to the Hebrew Israelites, all these scientific facts just, kind of go out the window. It doesn't apply to us. And there's a reason for this. You see, Satan wants to destroy the Most High's creation. So everything that the Most High tells us not to do, Satan says, go ahead and do it. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3 through 4 reads, "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahuwah be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly." So Yahuwah has commanded us not to marry into other nations of people, and back in ancient times, the Hebrew Israelites stayed within their tribes. So just that commandment alone lets us know that DNA can definitely be mixed. And as we learned on a scientific level at the beginning of this study, you are 50% of each of your parents' DNA. And as we can clearly see in this picture here, the physical evidence actually lines up with the scientific evidence, since you can visibly see that the child shares the characteristics of both of its parents. With the mother being of Asian descent, you can see her features, especially in the eyes of the child. You see, it's beneficial to understand the origin of DNA mixing and where it all began in the first place. Now, before the Watchers came down and mated with the beautiful black women of the earth, there were no pale-skinned people here. But when the Watchers came down and began to have sexual escapades with the human women here on earth, they produced multiple types of hybrid offspring of half human and half angel beings. Now, according to Lamech, who was Noah's father, when Noah was born, Lamech was afraid of him because he was born albino. And he said that this lack of melanin that Noah was born with actually looked like the fallen ones. And this is evidence that when the Watchers came down to earth, They must have been struck with leprosy, in which is pale skin. Okay, so now that we have a good foundation, let's recap on a little bit of what we know. We know that we are 50% of each of our parents, so we know how genetics work, and we know that DNA can be mixed. We also know that pale skin is a genetic mutation. We know that Yahuwah told Israel not to mix with the other nations, not to marry into the other nations. And we also know that everyone was brown skinned prior to the fallen ones, or the watchers, coming down to earth and altering Yahuwah's creation. So now we have concrete information and a solid foundation to go on as we move forward in taking a look at the 12 tribes of Israel and how all of them were of Negro descent. We need to be able to apply what we've learned in regards to how genetics work when we're looking at this. And we know that each nation of people have their own set of unique characteristics. 2 Asian parents will not give birth to an Indian child. 2 Indian parents will not give birth to an Asian child, and so on and so forth. But why is it when it comes to the so-called black people, these same genetic rules that apply to all the other nations don't apply to us? Why is it that the so-called black people, who are in fact the true Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, can look like any nation of people? Let's take a look at the fake 12 tribes of Israel chart that people tend to use when they're trying to identify who the true Hebrew Israelites are of the Bible. Now, there's a lot of things wrong with this chart that I'm not going to be talking about today, but what I will talk about pertains to my video and the point I'm trying to make. Now, we know that Judah and Issachar had the same black mother and black father. So then how is it on this chart they have Judah as the American blacks and Issachar as Mexicans? Now, we know that Israel have been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, and we also know that Israel, as well as all the indigenous people of the earth, were brown-skinned. So if Judah and Issachar's parents, Jacob and Leah, were both black, based on what we've learned today as far as genetic makeup, would this be the tribe of Issachar? We learned that children inherit 50% of DNA from each of their parents. We also learned that humans have 46 chromosomes, 1 pair of chromosomes from each parent, 23 from the mother and 23 from the father. So based on this factual genetic information, we know that the tribe of Issachar was of Negro descent. We also know that in every nation of indigenous people, there has been a process of whiting out by mixing DNA. This is one of the main tactics that Satan continues to use to hide the true identity of the Hebrew Israelites. But you see, these wicked people who work on behalf of Satan, they know that they can tell the masses anything and they'll believe it. You see, people don't really study. They don't want to put any work in. They just want to listen to what other people tell them. So they just end up repeating what someone else told them, and they don't know how to break down whatever it is they're trying to tell you. And when they do try to lead you to a Bible verse or break down what they're saying, it doesn't make any sense because they're not really studying for themselves. They're just repeating what someone else told them. And this is why you don't hear anyone trying to break down that fake 12 tribes chart, because it doesn't make any sense. They would have to explain things like why Issachar and Judah came from the same parents, Jacob and Leah, being black, but one comes out Mexican and the other comes out African American. And so there are Afro-Latinos and Afro-Mexicans, but these are really the true Hebrew Israelites who have been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. But the pale-skinned Latinos or Mexicans who have been whited out, these are not Hebrew Israelites. Pale skin is a telltale sign of a genetic modification, a hybrid, a mix of DNA. So the true Hebrew Israelites who are spread to the 4 corners of the earth, including Mexico, they are Afro descent. Now, I haven't studied this on my own yet, but I've always heard that Mexicans are one of the newest races of people. Now, if this is true, That's another clue that the pale-skinned Mexicans were not around when Leah and Jacob had Issachar. And I just want to kind of put this out there. I have nothing against any other nation of people. I know that your race is not going to save you. But why is it when it comes to the Hebrew Israelites, we look like everybody? It doesn't make any sense to me, but every other race of people share the same characteristics. And why is it when it comes to the Hebrew Israelites, or the so-called black people, all the genetic rules that apply to all the other races kind of just go out the window for us? Why are we so open to freely giving our heritage away? I know that we've been lost as a people, and I know that we're in captivity, but the Most High said in Deuteronomy 30 that we would wake up in the land of our captivity and remember who we are as a people. But as we begin to wake up and we try to wake our fellow brethren up, we get all this pushback and, all this animosity, people getting upset saying that you're prideful because you are happy that you know who you are now. And I can't say enough at the end of my videos to keep Yahuwah's laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. This is how you enter into the kingdom, and of course, believing on the HaMashiach. Your race is not going to get you into the kingdom. That is not what I'm saying. And someone came on my channel and commented saying that I was being prideful just because I'm happy to know who I am and whose I am. And after being lost all this time, you should be happy too. I'm not saying be boastful and go around bragging, but at the same time, the Most High is the one who said that we would wake up and remember who we are in the land of our captivity. Once we wake up to our true identity, we then have a job to do. We must begin to obey the voice of the Most High by keeping His laws, statutes, and commandments. I know that we're tired and we have been in this captivity for so long. Some people are just willing to accept any doctrine that's thrown at them. But in order to walk in truth, it is imperative that we double check the people who we're following. Don't just take people's word for everything. Instead, question everything and ask Yahuwah to send the Holy Spirit to give you divine wisdom and understanding. With that being said, thanks for watching. May Yahuwah bless you and your family and keep you all safe. Remember to keep Yahuwah's laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. And remember Matthew chapter 24 and verse 13. He that endures unto the end, the same shall be saved. Don't forget to check out my website. I have t-shirts and paintings. The link will be in the description box. And thank you so much for listening. And until my next video, Shalom.